Hello everyone, welcome back to Up Late with Ivy. I am your host, Ivy Rush, and I want to start this video off by saying thank you for being patient with me. I decided to take the week off last weekend because I was working on a very special music project that is so near and dear to my heart. And check out my music if you haven't already. It's Ivy Rush. Link is in my bio all the time. I'm really excited for this song to release. It's called Morgan. And I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everyone. But tonight's story, this is actually, I believe, my longest video. So y'all gonna eat, and it's gonna be great. Because this is a very cool story. It's got a lot of attitude. The characters are very fleshed out people, which is awesome. And there's a lot of humor in it as well. It's not strictly horror. It's pretty funny at some points. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. If you find a painting of your childhood home, do this before it ruins your life. By Kris West. That's my childhood home. I wasn't turning down the street I grew up on. I wasn't standing near the large oak in the front yard of the house where I'd lost all my baby teeth. I wasn't sitting inside the kitchen where, on my 15th birthday, I accidentally dropped the cake my mom had baked, which made my family laugh so hard that we shed tears. No, I was holding an oil painting at Goodwill on the other side of the country. That can't be possible, my husband said. It can be possible, Parker, because I'm holding the flipping painting and telling you. 1, language. 2, can I say something without you jumping down my throat? Parker asked, his voice even. Yes, I said. Is there an outside chance that this just looks like your childhood home? I mean, you grew up in the burbs, a lot of cookie-cutter homes, no? I hated to admit he had a point, but as I stared at the house, I couldn't come around to that line of thinking. This was my house. Hell, the roses in the flower beds were the same size and color as I remembered them. No, I mean, I hear you, and you're not off base, but, dude, this is my house. I pointed at the porch. I broke that railing trying to do a ballet spin and fell into the bushes. You, Miss Two Left Feet? Senorita Trips a Lot? Tried to do a ballet spin? To be fair, I did the spin, I just didn't stick the landing. A minor detail in the world of dance, the landing part. I landed on the bushes right here, I said, pointing to the painting. Hold on, I have to send a photo to my mom. Does she have old house photos? Of course she does. You've met her, right? I had Parker hold the painting and snapped a few pictures. I sent them over to Mom and asked if she had a photo to compare it to. The image came back a minute later. OMG, that's our house. Weird. Another ding brought us a house photo. It looked exactly like the artwork in my hand. I showed Parker. Christ, he said. That's it. Told you. That's wild. Is it a print or real painting? I ran my hand across the art. There was a palpable texture to the brush strokes. Sometimes a print may have varnish applied to give the impression of brush strokes. This wasn't that. I think this is real, but let me check something else, I said, walking toward the wall of ugly lamps. I turned on a lamp and held the painting in front of the bulb. Some artists will draw the picture first in pencil before painting. Sometimes you can see those marks when you hold it up to the light. Staring at the oak tree in the painting, I saw graphite streaks underneath. It's real, I declared. Who painted it? A slash of red paint in the corner mimicked a signature, but Parker and I stared at it as if it were written in Minoan linear A. Parker traced the paint with his finger, forwards and backwards. The first name may be George or Jeff. I think George. Look at how it flows. He retraced the letters, and it made sense to me. Okay, what's the last name? Hell if I know. I tried Parker's finger tracing. It felt like I was tracing a line drawing by someone with too much caffeine in their system. These didn't seem like actual letters. Might be Moffat, a soft voice said from behind us. We turned and saw that a Goodwill employee had materialized. She was a short, frail-looking elderly woman with a hairstyle that resembled a well-constructed cumulus cloud in both color and shape. Moffat? I said. I think that's an M, she said, pointing to two humps. Then it kind of circles into an O, and the double Fs. The I and the T are somewhat stylized, I think. Artists being artists. I looked and, yeah, it kind of looked like Moffat. I can see it. George Moffat, you think? I do. Beautiful piece, don't you think? Yes, I said. It looks exactly like the house I grew up in. I showed her the photo my mom sent. How strange, right? I grew up across the country. Why is this even here? When I was younger, there was a company that would paint your home for you. Painters? Parker deadpanned. Ignore him, I said. He doesn't know how to act in public. She laughed. I understand. I have one just like him at home. I laughed. You're teaching and I'm taking notes, ma'am. Anyway, they would come paint portraits of your house. It was a thing for a few years. This looks like one of those. There may be a company name on the back, under the frame. I flipped the painting over and gingerly removed the frame. Sure enough, there was a small, faded sticker that read, Cozy Home Portraits Company. There wasn't any other information. I made an impressed noise. Look at that. Have a jumping off point to find out what this is all about. Thank you so much. Marge, thank you. Sorry again for this guy. Marge, please forgive me. You're a gentlewoman and a scholar. Marge leaned into him and nodded at me. You're punching above your weight with her, kiddo. Keep her happy. Parker laughed, wrapped his arm around my hip, and pulled me in for a hug. Marge, that's the best advice I've ever received from a Goodwill employee. If only your barber had given you good advice, you could have avoided that haircut. I burst out laughing. Parker did too. Marge, I hope I grow up to be just like you. You found a guy who can take a joke. That's a start. You guys want to get that or still debating? I looked at Parker, and he nodded. How can we not get this? Even if it's just for the story. Marge smiled. See? You can learn. Come on, kids, I'll ring you up. When I got home, I immediately began researching the Cozy Home Portraits Company. I had a hard time finding anything. Most of the search results were links to people on Reddit asking the same questions. Apparently, there were a lot of folks like me who were surprised to find their childhood homes immortalized on canvas. One commenter said something that stuck with me. Parker, listen to this, I said, reading the post. My mom says she remembers someone approaching her and asking if they could take a photo so they could paint the house later. She told them no at first, but they said they'd do it for no cost. Mom agreed and assumed she'd get the painting at some point, but she never heard from the company again. What's the next commenter say? This sounds fake, I read. Kind of a dickish response, no? It's Reddit, he said, shrugging. Maybe they just used the house for inspiration and sold the paintings to commercial houses for reproductions? Then why bother involving the homeowners at all? Maybe to assuage their worries of someone standing outside their home snapping photos of their house? Parker suggested. I mean, anyone could take a photo of our house, and I'd have no idea unless I saw them do it. True, it's weird, I'll grant you, but I think I'm on the right track. Commercial art. Americana stuff. That has to be it. He may have been onto something, but that answer didn't feel right. I couldn't work out the logic. If this company had been around for a while and painted portraits of homes all across the country for commercial sale, why wasn't there any record of them? No stories online, no official business records, no known CEO or lists of artists or anyone. Hell, even searching for the name George Moffat didn't yield results. My mind told me there was something off about this. A sense of dread loomed over the whole thing. I let it marinate all day to see if I'd reconsider. Shocking no one, I didn't. I told Parker as much as we got ready for bed. You're reacting that way because of what's happening in the world right now, Parker said, yawning. There are real evil people out there, but they aren't painting pictures. Hitler painted pictures, I said. He gave me a deadpan stare. You know what I mean. I just can't let it go. It's odd. Odd that it was done at all. Odd that it traveled all the way out here. Odd that I found it. Odd stacked on odd stacked on odd. Turtles all the way down. What? I said, crinkling up my face. What do turtles have to do with anything? He laughed. Nothing. Just a dumb expression. He yawned again. Why is this bothering you so much? Some random company painted and sold pictures of my childhood house with no one knowing about it. It's odd, he said with a smile. Very. It's just not sitting right with me. Parker yawned for a third time. My melatonin is kicking in here. Get some rest and see how you feel in the morning. Maybe call your mom. See if she has a story to tell. She might know something. He didn't wait for my response. Instead, he rolled over, shut off the lamp, and turned on our sound machine. As digital thunderstorms rolled into our bedroom, I lay down on my pillows, but didn't fall asleep. This whole thing smothered my thoughts as much as my weighted blanket did my body. I would call Mom tomorrow, see what she knew. If anything. I heard light snores coming from Parker's direction inside. That man could fall asleep even if the house were on fire. I flipped on YouTube, found something to help me sleep, and closed my eyes. Or would have, if I hadn't seen our front porch light turn on. A cold touched my brain and froze the rest of my body. The light going off didn't mean a prowler was trying to jimmy open our lock. It could be a bug flying too close to the sensor or a sleepwalking squirrel. Improbable? Sure, but they were better than the alternative. I didn't want to wake Parker, but I also wasn't keen on investigating alone. While I was debating getting out of bed, I heard a noise in the kitchen. That made the decision easy. I elbowed Parker. What? He asked, his voice a blend of exhaustion and annoyance. Our front port light went off, I whispered. Raccoons tripping the light, he said. Not worth waking me. I know, but I heard someone in the kitchen. His eyes zinged open. In a flash, he was on his feet and grabbed the bat we kept near our bed. He quietly inched along the wall until he got to the bedroom doorway. He peeked out and scanned the room before turning back to me and shrugging. I pointed to the kitchen again, before popping up and joining him on the wall. Parker wasn't pleased. He told me, not in words but vigorous nods, to go back to the bed and wait. I didn't. He gave in, and we made our way out of the bedroom, me walking directly behind him like some backwards waltz. I saw nothing. That went double after Parker slammed his hand on the switch, flooding the room with light and damn near blinding me in the process. I let out a painful yelp and covered my eyes to adjust. I heard Parker sigh. "We're good," he said. "Nothing in here." "You gotta tell me before you do that," I said, finally checking out the room. Everything initially looked washed out. "I'm nearly blind." "I wanted the element of surprise," Parker said. "You achieved it," I said. "All I see now are a bunch of little diamonds everywhere." He walked into the kitchen. "Your intruder is nothing more than a fallen salt shaker," he said, holding up the culprit. "Oh. Like I said, a raccoon probably tripped the light. I'm going back to sleep. You should too." He walked past me, patted my ass, and headed back to bed. I was about to join him when my eyes landed on the painting. I walked over to it and stared. In the store, looking at it had flooded my emotions with joy and happiness, but now, none of that. Unease seeped into my blood and rushed through my body. Something was different about the painting. I couldn't put my finger on what had changed, but I knew something had. It was giving me chills. I grabbed a nearby napkin and draped it over the artwork like a coroner covering a dead body. My thinking was that if there was something supernatural about this thing, the napkin would keep it at bay. Dumb, I know, but it made sense at the time. I couldn't believe that picture. That's so wild. Mom was too chipper for this early in the morning. She always was, though. A real rise with the early bird kind of gal. That wasn't me. I still had bedhead as I sipped my cup of coffee. Parker, another early riser, cooked breakfast. I thought so too. Someone told me a company used to go around and paint pictures of homes. They'd ask the homeowners beforehand. Any memory of that? Not that I can remember. Back then it was mostly your father who spoke with the salesman. I found them unseemly. I can't imagine he'd allow someone to do that, rest his soul. Yeah, Dad was pretty private. We had a neighbor who was a painter, though. Carl. No, that wasn't it. Craig. Oh, goddamn my ancient brain. Bonnie, don't get old. It's hell. I'm trying not to. It's why I do my nightly skincare routine. It's intense, Parker added with a smirk. What was his name? It's been years since I thought of him. Craig Morris, something like that. He didn't live near us for long. Dad didn't like him at all. Why? Craig was the human equivalent of a popcorn kernel stuck in your teeth. Irritating. He rubbed your father the wrong way. I don't remember Dad talking about him. He didn't around you, but with me, hoo boy. Craig used to walk by the house all the time, always whistling Pop Goes the Weasel, for some reason. He'd stand too close when he talked to you. He'd leer at me when I was outside, hanging laundry on the line. He'd never get the hint that I wanted to be left alone, even though I was always short with him, especially after he said that you were growing up nicely. Gross, I said. I was 10. Like I said, he was a weirdo. But again, most artiste types are, I suppose. Remember your Uncle Walter made those ghastly papier-mâché skulls? They used to be all over his house. It was like walking into some cannibal's hut whenever we'd go over there. But he was good at making them. Who'd want them is another thing altogether. He gave us one, and I made your dad keep it in a bag in the garage. Don't bring that ghoulish shit in my house. As my mom rambled about the skull shapes like a Victorian phrenologist, a thought came to me. I looked down at the painting and traced the painter's name. Could his name have been Craig Moffat? Parker looked over at me. I nodded down at the painting and traced what I thought the letters were with my finger. He hit his forehead with the spatula and shook his head. Oh my God! Yes, that was it! Craig Moffat! God, what a blast from the past. He really was a weird little freak of a man, my mom said, laughing. He used to wear these tiny little shorts, and he did not have the legs for it. Looked like 2 toothpicks stuck in an orange. Mom droned on a little longer, but provided nothing of substance beyond Craig Moffat's horrible legs. But she had given me some new information, the artist's real name. As soon as I hung up, I grabbed my laptop. Craig Moffat, not George, Craig. I see it now, Parker said. We should have never trusted Marge. Didn't like the cut of her jib. Babe, her jib was flawless, I said, turning to the painting. Her eyes, not so much. To be fair, we all agreed it was George Moffat. There's Craig Moffat. I turned the computer around and showed a web page dedicated to his art. Parker leaned down to get a closer look. His legs do look like toothpicks stuck in an orange. Rolling my eyes, I turned the laptop back to me and clicked on the man's About Me page. It was illuminating. Craig had quite the little career. He'd worked for a few newspaper outlets, a few magazines, some ad campaigns. His stuff was good. There was a list of known works. There are a few house paintings listed here. It has to be him. Has anyone mentioned how odd this is? Parker said with a sly smile. It's catching on. Maybe he saw your home as a happy family home and wanted to capture it for that company. Is there a contact page? There is, I yelped. I read the page out loud. If you have questions about Craig or his work, please feel free to reach out here, I said. That's great. You can email him and ask directly. MoffatEstate@moffatart.com, I read. Shit. He's dead. That shouldn't matter. Maybe the guy who runs the estate can answer your questions. I nodded. It was worth a shot. I started composing a message, and Parker went back to breakfast. I glanced at the artwork on the table next to me. Something about it picked at my brain. Hey, I meant to ask, have you been watching professional wiffle ball games on our YouTube? Oh, yeah, I've started turning on games after your melatonin kicks in. Puts me right out. Uh-huh. Are you a wiffle ball fan? No, I said, laughing. I just happened across it one night, and I fell asleep like 10 minutes into a game. It's better than Ocean Waves. Which game was it? Rhinos against the Storks? Oh man, those two teams hate each other. Storks have won the last 3 series behind Dustin Braddock's nasty banana ball. I stopped speaking because I could feel Parker's smug smirk on his face. I looked up and caught it with my own eyes. Not a fan. What the hell is a banana ball? Ping! They emailed back already, I said. What the hell? Maybe there isn't a lot going on at the Moffat estate. Hi, Craig Moffat was my father. He did several pieces of local homes during that era. I would love to discuss this with you. Can we set up a call? So there clearly isn't a lot going on at the Moffat estate, Parker said. I'm going to say yes. I think I have to, if for no other reason than to help my own sanity. Go for it. I can be there for the call if you need me. So I set up a call with the estate for later that day. Hopefully there'd be some information that I could use to stop the itch in my brain. Parker served me breakfast before he got ready to head out to the gym. You never told me what a banana ball is, he said, placing the plate in front of me. It's a sidearm slurve, a strikeout pitch, nearly unhittable if Braddock is on his game. Parker gave me a quizzical look. I sighed. Not a fan. After Parker had left for the gym, I went back over to the painting. It was still sitting in the last place I had left it. Still had the napkin over it. The bad vibes I felt earlier were still there. In fact, they'd grown worse. I didn't even want this thing in my house anymore, covered or not. Despite my misgivings, I pulled the napkin off the painting and gave it a once-over. I felt my stomach gurgle, and my throat went dry. Looking at this now literally caused physical pain. It didn't make sense. Where's the front door? I suddenly asked myself out loud. The front door of the house was gone, blacked out like an actor with perfect teeth coloring in one to look sufficiently destitute for a role. I scraped where the door had been with my thumb. No fresh paint. It was like it had always been that way. But it hadn't. I checked the photo I sent to my mom to confirm. What in the... There was a creak on the basement stairs. There very much shouldn't have been a creak on the basement stairs. The basement was home to nothing but dust, Christmas decorations, and my ugly childhood couches we didn't have the heart to throw away. Since none of those things can walk, this made no sense. I tiptoed to the knife block and pulled out a butcher's knife. With my phone in my free hand, I used my nimble thumb to unlock it. I was ready to dial 911, but as I stared at my reflection in the knife blade, I questioned whether I was prepared to stick it into another person. I wouldn't know that until it came to that moment. I very much prayed that wouldn't happen. Another creak, near the top of the stairs now. It was getting closer. I flexed the grip on the knife. I tried to control my breathing, but couldn't. Turns out all that woo-woo TikTok relaxation breathing stuff was just bullshit. My heart was thumping like an angry jazz drummer's long-awaited solo. I felt sweat drip down my neck. Something flickered on the painting. It momentarily took my eyes off the basement door. Like last night, I initially registered nothing different. Then I noticed. Through the window of the living room, it looked like someone had turned on a light or lit a fire. Splotches of yellow and orange paint filled the window frame. The jingling of the basement door handle snapped me out of my trance. My palms were sweaty. My legs swayed like bamboo in a strong breeze. I gathered all my remaining strength and yelled out, "Hey, stay away from me!" I wanted to say more, but overwhelming fear shut me up. The jiggling stopped. Relief. My hectoring worked. For about 2 seconds. The basement door cracked open. There was a ghostly, pale face staring back at me. That was when my brain firmly decided whether I was a fight or flight kind of gal. I was flight. Fuck this. I dropped the knife, which clattered on the tile like that drummer hitting the hi-hat, and sprinted toward my front door. I yelled gibberish the entire time, tears streaming down my face, and blasted out of the door. My fingers hit send on the call, and seconds later, an annoyingly even-keeled 911 operator connected me with the police. Parker returned home before the police arrived. He found me sitting inside my locked car. Before he could crack a joke, he caught sight of my face. I had been crying, and he could feel how puffy my eyes were. Consternation crossed his face. I rolled down the window. "Get in the car." He did. I explained everything to him. He was astonished. He was confused. He grabbed my hand and held it steady as I went over everything, pausing occasionally to sob like a child with a skinned knee. When I was done, he asked why I didn't leave right away. "Who do you think you are, Rambo?" I laughed. I needed that. For a few seconds, I was. Then I wasn't. Then I wasn't even Gizmo pretending to be Rambo. He gave my arm a loving squeeze. "If it'll help calm you down, we can watch some pro wiffle ball tonight. I hear the rhinos are playing the turkeys." "Storks," I said. "But they're actually playing the habaneros tonight. Gil Faust is looking to debut his chili ball pitch." He leaned in and kissed my forehead. "But you're not a fan." "I'm not." A knock on the window caused me to scream. The cops had arrived. If they were curious why we were sitting in our car, they kept it to themselves. I relayed what happened, and they said they'd go into the basement and check it out. 15 minutes later, they came walking out. "We didn't see anyone down there," the cop said. "But, to be fair to you, your basement gave me the heebie-jeebies." "Great," I said. "I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but it's the truth. On the plus side, I haven't seen that love seat since I was a kid." "Want it? It's better left to the past. You two have a nice day." We watched them leave. Parker turned to me. "You okay?" "No, and I won't be until I go into the basement myself." "What? Why?" I can't explain. Something is drawing me there. It sounds crazy, I know, but I feel it in my bones. Parker saw the determined look in my eyes. This was going to happen. Had to happen. He sighed. "Want me to go in first?" "Yes," I said. "Are you actually going to wait for me to go in or follow right behind me?" We both know the answer to that. Resuming our reverse waltz, we went back into the house. Once in the kitchen, we stopped near the painting. Parker looked over and agreed that there were changes. We turned our attention to the closed basement door. Parker put his hand on the handle. "We don't have to go down here, Bonnie," he said. "The cops didn't find anyone." "Alive. If there's a ghost in this house, I need to know. If we know, we can remove it." "How?" "I'm still working on that part," I said. "But I need to know for certain. I won't feel safe otherwise." I'm inclined to just say yes and move on. Something altered the painting already. Who the hell did that? I'm inclined to just say yes and move on. Something altered the painting already. Who the hell did that? "One issue at a time," I said. He knew he couldn't talk his way out of this. He knew I needed this, and he loved me enough to see it through to the end. Even though he was petrified too. The skin on his arm had goosebumps as soon as we walked into the kitchen. It felt like Braille to me now, and the only thing it said was, "Let's not do this." But that feeling in my brain, the one drawing me down there, wouldn't leave. It was stronger now that we were in the home. Something was loose in my house. I knew it in my heart. Whatever it was, I needed to keep it from roosting in my new home. Let the ghosts live in the past. Leave my future alone. Parker gripped the handle, sighed so loudly it was heard from 2 towns over, and opened the door. The stairs led into the dark of the basement. The floor around the landing was the only thing visible. In the abstract, it wasn't anything. Right now, though, horrifying. Parker found the light switch, illuminating the rest of the space. So far, so good. We took our time walking down the stairs, creaking along the wooden stairs 1 step at a time. Maybe it'd have the same effect on the ghost that hearing creaking steps did on me. Perhaps the phantom was hiding, holding a ghost knife and deciding if it was going to play Ghost Rambo or just fully disappear into the walls. "The house in the painting had a basement too," I whispered. "When I was a kid, I hated going down there. Any time of day. Just didn't feel natural, you know." "Are you trying to get me to stop doing this?" "I'm sorry, I'm rambling," I said. I kept right on rambling, though. What bothered me wasn't so much going down there. What scared me was the trip back up, turning your back on the dark. I used to walk backwards up the stairs. "We can try that in a few minutes," Parker whispered back. "Any other ghost stories you want to share before we hit the landing?" "Sorry," I said. "It just popped into my mind. I haven't thought about that fear in years, since we moved away from there, actually." "That's not comforting." We got to the bottom and took a look around. Everything looked normal, no surprises, just our old, ugly furniture and friendly Santa decorations smiling and giving us a frozen wave. I thought about turning and heading back up, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was supposed to be down here. I was also positive Parker would be furious if I went darting up the stairs without him. Leaving him alone in Spook Central might be grounds for divorce. We headed over to the furniture. There was a layer of dust on everything. I smacked the pillow, sending it flying into the air. I coughed and sneezed, instantly regretting my actions. Parker's withering glare told me he wasn't fond of my actions either. Sorry. I don't see anything out of the ordinary here, do you? No, I said. It looks like it always does. Feeling gone? Can we go back upstairs now? Before I could answer, we heard the familiar chime from our security system, followed by the calm, reassuring voice informing us that our front door was open. What the fuck? I said. Shh, Parker responded, his finger to his lips. He pointed up to the ceiling. We cocked our ears and concentrated. For about 20 seconds, there was nothing. Silence. It didn't last. Creak. The floorboards wheezed as someone took slow, deliberate steps above us. You could hear the footfalls as they moved from the front door to the hallway. Trembling, Parker pointed up at the ceiling. You could physically see the floor bow ever so slightly from the person's weight. I didn't even think that was possible. What do we do? I whispered. I don't know, Parker said. Maybe they'll leave? A second later, we were cloaked in total darkness. All the power in the house had gone out. The only light came from the sunlight streaming in from the open door at the top of the stairs. It wasn't much, but it was a beacon. Our lighthouse. Our way home. Let's, is all I was able to say. Someone upstairs ran down the hall, through the kitchen and to the basement door. They slammed it shut, plunging us into instant midnight. I wanted to scream, to yell so loud it'd shake the heavens, but I couldn't. My body physically couldn't make that happen. It'd give away our location. I clutched Parker's shirt so hard I was afraid I'd rip it right off him. If it bothered him, he didn't say. This sucks, Parker mumbled, understatement of the goddamn century. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas, one of our Santa decorations started going off. I nearly peed myself at Santa's sudden arrival. I imagined it would have been the same response I would have had if I had seen him as a kid. Kris Kringle was soon joined by all of our Christmas decorations going off at once. Dozens of laughing Santas, lights flickering off and on, inflatables rising like zombified plastic bags. The noise was deafening, but strangely festive. The strobing lights and the pitch black caused after-images to dance in my rods and cones. I slammed them shut and silently prayed for this all to end. Someone must have heard, because as quickly as they'd come to life, they stopped. We stood in the dark, not breathing, not moving. Neither of us knew what to do. Nothing in my life had prepared me for this. I couldn't shake the idea that whatever was coming would be worse than what we'd already experienced. There was a creaking again, and a sudden rushing of blinding sunlight from the top of the stairs. Someone had opened the door. Before we could get a glimpse, the door slammed shut, and something sprinted down the now dark stairs. I pulled Parker back onto the old love seat. We sat on the edge and we kept our heads on a swivel, even though the basement was too dark to see our own hands. We weren't alone anymore. As my fingertips grazed the couch, I realized something. These were originally my parents. My parents got them when I was living in the house from the painting. They were a physical connection between the past and now. Are these what caused my sudden desire to come to the basement? Was I being manipulated by this thing? Could I trust myself at all? That dread feeling I'd had since I brought the painting into our house intensified. I felt it in my bones, deeper even, my aura, my soul. I leaned into Parker's ear and whispered an apology. He didn't vocalize a response, but squeezed my arm. I squeezed back. My body shook, and I couldn't get myself to stop. I wanted to run for the stairs, but that old fear came rushing back. I knew if I ran up those stairs, it would follow behind me. Something whooshed by us. My hair flowed with it, trailing behind whatever had sprinted past. I nervously dug my fingers into the fabric. We heard the sound of some liquid splattering on the floor across from us. Water? No, heavier than water. A sound that made my guts twist soon joined the drips and splashes. Someone started whistling a familiar tune. Pop Goes the Weasel. The Christmas decorations flickered on and shut off. In the brief flash of light, we could make out a figure standing across from us. Craig Moffat. "Pop!" he screamed as the light strobed. "Goes!" he screamed again, a foot closer this time. Another foot closer, almost directly in front of us now. The lights flickered again, and his face was right next to mine. A sinister smile as he slowly whispered, "Weasel." I felt something wet and slimy rub against my cheek. Parker stood and, surprisingly, swung at Ghost Craig. It didn't find the ghoul, and, as the darkness returned, his fist only found the arm of the couch. I heard his knuckles crack and him swear in pain. My ears were the only thing working at that moment, though. I sat frozen, tears streaming down my face. The lights in the house came back on, and I screamed. On the wall across from us, where we had heard the water, the painting was hanging. Only it wasn't the old house. It was the current house. All the windows and doors were filled with flames. There were 2 figures on the front lawn, Parker and I. We were both dead. Standing behind our oak tree, watching it all, was Craig Moffat. "Parker, let's go!" I didn't have to tell him twice. We broke for the stairs and took them 3 at a time until we reached the top. I grabbed the handle and shoved my shoulder into the door, expecting it to hold firm. It didn't. Parker and I spilled onto our kitchen floor. I scrambled up and practically yanked Parker into the kitchen. I was about to slam the door when I saw Craig Moffat standing at the bottom of the stairs. We locked eyes. My mind flew back to my childhood, a memory stored deep in the folds of my brain. I was sitting on our porch, reading a book, and heard that damn whistling. Craig Moffat. A Polaroid camera in his hands, and portrait photos on his mind. I was afraid he'd stop and take a picture of me. I was right. Even now I could hear the heavy clunk of the shutter and the whirring of the processing photo as it slid out. He shook it. And as the fog of war slowly dissipated on the photo, he smiled. "This way I won't forget you." I slammed the door shut and urged Parker to grab the car keys. He turned the corner to do so when I heard him sharply yelp in surprise, followed by the squeak of his sneakers on the hardwood and his ass hitting the ground. I ran to him expecting to see Craig, but was stunned by the sight of a living man surrounded by 2 yellow hulks outside my front door. Once my brain processed the information, it was clear those men were wearing biohazard suits. It still didn't answer why men in biohazard suits were outside my door, but it cleared up that there were. The suitless man in the middle, though, had a more than striking resemblance to the ghost I'd just seen in my basement, only younger, fuller, fleshy. "Sorry to startle you both," the man said, raising his hands in peace. "You contacted us about a painting you found. I'm David Moffat. Craig was my father." "You gotta be shitting me." "We were supposed to talk on the phone," I said. "Yes, but we were worried things might have progressed too much by then. Tell me, has the door in the painting disappeared yet?" "How did—" David turned to his men. "Call for the extraction team." Turning back to us, he urgently asked, "Where's the painting?" "The basement," I said. "But it looks different now." "What in the hell is going on?" Parker asked. "Different? Would you say violently different?" "Our dead bodies on the lawn and the place ablaze, violently different." He nervously turned to where the biohazard-suited men had gone. "The experienced extraction team!" Parker stood and held my hand. We looked at each other and back at David Moffat. We both cracked, small smiles that turned into chuckles, that turned into a laughing fit. I read somewhere that mental breaks can start like this. Whatever. I leaned in. "David Moffat, the son of your childhood painter neighbor Craig Moffat, himself a ghost that nearly killed us, is standing in our fucking veranda," Parker said, barely able to get the words out between screeching laughter. "I mean, what the fuck is this life?" Seconds later, a team of armed men in hazmat suits carrying unknown machinery rushed in and headed for the basement. We heard one of them scream, and then the sounds of mechanical engines warming up. David nodded toward the front door. "We should go outside." We did. What the hell else were we going to do? Once we were outside, David pulled out a pack of cigarettes and offered us one. We both declined. David indulged and nodded back at the house. "This is the experience team." "What's going on?" I asked. "I'm going to level with you. What I'm about to say is pretty weird. I like to say weird to people, so that's the right tone. Sir, on what is easily the weirdest day in not only my and my wife's life, but I'd argue humanity's life, nothing you can say will top what we've already been through," Parker said. "I mean, I just discovered my wife watches professional wiffle ball, for God's sake." "Not a fan," I mumbled. Dad was a strange man. Lots of demons. When he could keep them at bay, he did great work. But that was never for long. Around the time you were a kid, he got deep into the occult. It was a faddish, passing fancy at first, but soon he found a deeper meaning in it. It consumed him. Around this time, well, he conjured a demon. I think I'm having a stroke. He made a deal. We don't exactly know the details, but what we do know is that Dad agreed to start a company that would paint portraits of people's homes. The twist was that the homes he picked would become targets for demons. "Naturally," Parker said. "Because why not?" He'd take a photo of the home and give it to the demon. The demon would curse it and insert it into the canvases of my dad's paintings. These photos would be a connection between the subjects in the art and the demon itself. The pull got stronger when the artwork found its way back to the subjects. Then they'd, well, he trailed off. "Meet each other?" I said. "In a manner of speaking, yes." So many questions bounced around my brain. This all sounded so outlandish, and yet the memory of the photo came back to me. "This way I won't forget you," I said out loud. Confused, Parker looked at me. "What?" We don't know how many paintings Dad did during this time, but we've recovered 65 in locations from New York to California. The people selected seem to be random, except for you. Why me? My guess? You were neighbors and, well, my dad really didn't like your dad. The feeling was mutual. Just then, the extraction team came rushing out. One was limping. The machines they brought looked broken, but the lights were still on. One of them had the painting and a biocontainment bag. It was smoking. The experienced team, David said, ashing out his smoke on the bottom of his shoe and pocketing the butt. Thank you for letting us help rid you of this menace. The work is exhausting, but my family has to atone for Craig's wicked actions. David nodded and turned to leave. I reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Wait, that's it? We're free? Just like that? Just like that, he said, turning to leave. He stopped and spun on his heels. Unless you have something from the old house in your new house, then you kinda sorta leave a back door for the demon to return. So, if you do, I suggest destroying it. He tipped his cap and left. Parker and I locked eyes. The fucking love seat, we said at the same time. My back hurt just thinking about hauling it up those narrow stairs. Later that night, we torched the sofa in a makeshift fire pit in our backyard. We ate pizza and watched the flames consume the potentially demonic couch. Can't imagine that's a sentence that's been said a lot in history. As we did, relief filled my heart. The dread was gone. I looked over at Parker and smiled. I think we can put to bed the argument about who had the weirder childhood, Park. He laughed. Yeah, summers with my Amish family can't compete with demons. His phone buzzed. He looked down at the notification with concern. I felt my stomach twist. Please tell me it's good news. The Rhinos Habaneros game is about to start. I set a reminder. Want to watch? I touched my heart and felt pure happiness surge through me. Tears. Grabbing his free hand, I held it tight and gave it a big squeeze. I have something to confess, I said. I think I'm a legitimate fan of professional wiffle ball. I know, babe. I know. We sat together, letting the crackling of a burning demon couch and the crack of a wiffle ball bat fill the night air. I snuggled into Parker's shoulder. It was warm, inviting, home, and not one haunted by an angry ghost. How did one girl get so lucky? I never thought I would be using the words demon couch. It's not ever something I thought would become part of my vernacular, but here we are. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun reading that story. I didn't even realize how much time had gone by when I was recording that, because I was just so I had already read it, but I was so enthralled, even reading it the second or third time. I don't remember how many times I've read it. That was a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Kris, for letting me narrate your story. Go check out Kris's book. The link is in the description to get it on Amazon. Check him out. His work is really cool. So with that, I will bid you good night. Let's go into this week with positive vibes and good intentions. And remember, it's only a story. See you later.